And you guys can go ahead and ask her any questions, and she'll be very transparent with you. So, all right. So I'll ask a few questions. So Ayana, as a college student, when did you're a junior, so you started at the beginning of COVID, correct?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
So being as though that was your first time to go away to school, be away from family, did you go on campus or were you hybrid or did you spend the first semester at home? How did that process go for you?
Yeah, so during COVID, I actually ended up spending the entire first year at home. Second semester of freshman year, they did allow half of the freshmen to come on campus, and I was selected they had like a raffle kind of,
Okay.
where they kind of randomly assigned names, and so I actually did get accepted to go, but because COVID was basically at the peak at that time, my mom did not feel comfortable with me going. So I actually spent my entire first freshman year at home.
Okay. So as I guess for like we hype up going to college, right? What how did that make you feel in terms of, how did you cope with not being able to have that moment in time where you get to graduate and leave? Did you and if you could speak for some of your other friends as well, did they all have different ways of dealing with that process?
Yes, I would say a lot of people had a lot of different ways of dealing with that process. Once we first got to campus, I think everyone had a bit of sort of seasonal depression because even when we got there, we were still basically in quarantine. Like there really wasn't a lot for us to do. Now, me personally, I found comfort. I'm personally a artist, so I found comfort in my art form. I had started doing a lot more things with music because at the time that was my major. I switched now. I'm a psychology major currently, but I was music performance major when I first got there. So music was really my comfort. We have a few different facilities on campus that were open, so I would just kind of go into one of the labs and hang out there, or I would hang out with my friends a lot. There wasn't really much to do on campus, but our campus is actually really beautiful. I don't know if you guys have seen Spelman's campus. It has really, really nice scenery, greenery, all of that. So there was a lot of places for us to sit and just talk and stuff like that, or hang out. We have a building called Lower Manley, which has like seating areas. It's also kind of styled like a little cafeteria. So for me, that's what I did. But I know other people had a much harder time adjusting. So for some people, I feel like they had different attitudes towards it. A lot of people went out to parties a lot, or I guess what you would call like a kickback, which is basically just a smaller version of a party. Um, they would kind of go out to those kinds of events and stuff like that. Some people did, I will say, did drink or partake in other substances because there was really nothing for us to do. There were no other campus activities or anything like that. Everything was pretty much shut down. We didn't have any homecoming or any events like we have now. So yeah.
All right. So looking at what how you started to where you're at now, it's been 2.5 years now, and psychology is great. It's a great major. Real quick, which kind of psychology are you looking at? Just
I
so we know.
Forensic psychology.
Okay, awesome. That's incredible. We need more of those in the world. But going back to what I was saying, how has life changed from the beginning, so 2020 to now? What do you notice different? How are some of the people on campus, some of your fellow students, how are they dealing with it? Because now everything's back open. So do you notice a shift in uh, alcohol, substances, things like that? Oh, there she is. Do you notice a shift in those kind of things now? Has it become more prominent? Do you see it more? And how's your campus dealing with issues and concerns surrounding it?
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and answer the first question. Um, as of, I feel like attitudes. towards it, and behaviors regarding it have changed for some people for the better, for some people for the worse. I was actually having a conversation with one of my friends, and a few of my classmates about it. I personally feel like certain students, maybe because everybody comes from different backgrounds. Some people had really strict parents, weren't really able to do much, and I feel like for those students, it becomes very obvious in their behavior at certain events, that they were not able to have certain freedoms, because I feel like now it shows in the way that they use certain substances. I will not throw anyone under the bus, but there
Good
are
idea.
there are several students that I personally know that, you know, honestly, go up to school intoxicated sometimes in the mornings, or show at certain events at school intoxicated, or after parties and stuff like that. There's certain students that I've noticed that just don't know necessarily how to hold their own when it comes to certain substances. And I would say that is a pretty big problem.
Okay.
When it gets to the point where other people have to kind of take care of you, or, kind of, I don't want to say babysit, but, basically they have to look out for your well-being because you're incapable of doing that yourself. I feel like that is a big issue. And like I said, it's not all students. I just feel like for certain students that had those behaviors freshman year, it kind of carried over into junior year. It's something that kind of progressed a little bit for them.
Okay.
But other students, I feel like know how to hold their own, in terms of substances with alcohol or anything like that. They're not really all over the place, or slurring their words, or need any help in terms of that. They're just having a good time, I guess. So I would say certain students have had the ability to cope better with this situation than others. Now I can't speak as to what other things may be going on in their personal life too that may have been a contributing factor, but yeah, I would say it's a bit of an even mix. As far as what Spellman is doing, to help with this problem, there's security. First of all, is at the front gate. We also have security at the back gate. So before you can even um, enter the gate to go into your dorms or any sort of housing that you have on campus, you are supposed to show your ID. You will be checked, and usually the security usually does have like a brief conversation and stuff with you too, just to make sure that you're doing okay and everything, just checking in on you. So if they could tell anything like right away, normally then they do call public safety, which is right at the front of campus. Um,
Okay.
so I would say they do that. We also have RAs that are on duty, that live on campus. So within your dorms, if there's any sort of suspicion, or any indication that you may have something, any sort of substance, whether it be alcohol or anything else, then an RA will come and speak to you, confiscate whatever it is that you have, if you do have anything. With probable cause, of course. And then after that, you may, well, not you may, you will be sent to I believe it's the director of undergraduate studies. And then again, you'll have a conversation with public safety as well.
Okay. I only have three more questions and I'll open up to everyone else. So you said the security is good. Your public safety, how effective do you think they are, and what is their response time to certain instances dealing with alcohol and substance abuse on campus? So, for instance, say you guys had a party, because I don't know if most people know, but Spelman is also around Morehouse, Clark, Atlanta, and I don't know how far Georgia Tech is, but there's surrounding schools around, so there's a huge uh, young adult population within a short distance. So, how do you feel that they do with responding to certain issues, especially now that school's open, sports and things like that is back up? And that tends to bring on a different type of crowd and
Yeah.
more partying. So, how do you feel they handle it?
I personally feel like they handle it very well. There's not really too many instances, at least on Spelman's campus for sure. I can't really speak to Morehouse or Clark Atlanta, because I don't really attend there. But from what I know of Spelman, there's not really many instances that we have of students getting, caught with anything or getting in trouble for any sort of substance abuse issues. So at least if people are doing it, they're making sure that it's not something that they're bringing, to the school or anything like that. So I would say public safety really rarely has any issues like that. If anything, most of our issues are with like the elevators or something like that going down, or not working. I would say that Spelman's pretty on top of that because they have a very harsh policy on anything regarding substances like that. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I think that's all the questions I have. I know you have a class coming up, so I won't hold you too long. If you could just hold on for a few minutes, and anyone have any questions for her, any assistance or anything that you've seen or heard that might be useful for her to take back to her liaisons, the community liaisons. All right, I'll give a few minutes. All right. So, Iana, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate your
Nicole, do you want us to just
transparency.
jump in
Go ahead.
or?
Yeah, you just go ahead and jump in. It's an open forum.
Hi, I'm Kurt Hageman, a counselor at University of Illinois in the Counseling Center and Alcohol and Other Drug program. I'm curious what services are available for students who are struggling with their substance use. What's the counseling services or health center, and how do they approach like substance use assistance?
Okay, that's a really good question. Um, Honestly, that is really something I would have to do more research on in terms of that because I personally don't have really any experience with that. But I do know that we do have student health centers on campus, and they do have a 24-hour hotline, so you can always reach out to anyone. They also suggest like if there's any emergencies, again, you can call public safety if there's anything that you need any sort of help with. I will also say we do have a counseling center too. I've actually attended the counseling center, and everyone in there is very, very nice, very welcoming. They provide a comfortable space for you to speak. I'm not exactly sure again in terms of alcohol abuse or any substance use or anything like that because I don't have that personal issue, but that's definitely something I can ask about, and I can definitely let Miss Sanders know if you're okay with that.
Perfect.
Okay,
Great. Thank you.
great, no problem.
Anyone else? All right, perfect. Thank you again, Ayana. I appreciate you. We're gonna go ahead and go actually to our first slot where Miss Lisa Hutchinson. I see you there. Thanks for joining. But before we do that, I have the executive director Garner on, and she would like to say a few things. So I'm gonna let her talk for a second. Director Garner,
Hi,
you,
yes,
there you go.
everyone. First of all, if is Ayana still on the call, I just want to express my gratitude for joining this call. Hearing from the students' perspective was extremely valuable. To hear like what's going on the college campus, especially as it relates to, being overserved and underage consumption. So just to hear that unique perspective was very interesting to hear. So I want to say thank you so much. I know you're busy and I know you're a student. So the fact that you were able to carve out some time to speak with us, I really appreciate this. I just wanted to make sure I first started off and say that.
You, I'm so glad to have, I guess, gotten the chance to answer your questions. Thank you so much for having me.
No, you were absolutely great, phenomenal. Second, I want to send a thank you also out to Nicole Sanders, our industry education manager. This is Nicole's first time putting on the summit, and the prepared for today and the speakers are also amazing. We're going to have a great event. So I just want to say thank you to her. Also, I want to thank all the attendees, all the community members, all our stakeholders, students, and everyone who can join us today for the Illinois Liquor Control Commission's College Summit. We do put on this event every year, and we do want to make it impactful. So we are striving to continue to improve upon what we've done in the past. So thank you for being a part of it because without you, we wouldn't be able to do this. As we all know or should know, alcohol isn't a normal commodity like other goods and services in the marketplace. As such, it does have to be highly regulated. And here at the ILCC, my job as the executive director isn't just to regulate, but also educate. And we're here today to ensure that, and not just today, but every day to ensure that underage drinking is being prevented. And if you can't prevent it completely, at least minimize to the extent that people are educated about the effects of it, as well as overconsumption and the effects on the community and the individual and families. So I do appreciate everyone joining us here today. It shows that you all care enough to get involved, to one, receive the message as well as to provide education. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. I hope everyone has a great time at the summit and gets a lot of useful information. If anybody has any questions or suggestions for our next year's summit, don't hesitate to reach out either to myself or to Nicole, whose contact information that you all have. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much. Have a great event.
Thank you, Director. Okay, so we're gonna keep moving. I have, like I said, Lisa Hutchinson on the line. She is uh, going to talk to our alcohol consumption and prevention outreach. She has a wealth of knowledge. We had a lengthy conversation a few weeks ago, and she has so much information that she can provide. And please feel free again, it's an open forum. If you have questions, just go ahead and ask. So I'm going to let her take it over. And I'm going to, do you have a presentation, Lisa?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so let me make you a presenter. Just give me 1 second. There we go. You should be able to take over the screen now.
Okay, let's hope this works. You know, we should be used to all of this by now, but I always find that there's always something that messes up when you're trying to do this. So I think I'm gonna have to change my settings here. But thank you so much for allowing me to be with you today. And I am the Vice President of Prevention and Policy at Mental Health America of Indiana. And under that umbrella, I direct the Indiana Coalition to Reduce Underage Drinking and the Indiana Collegiate Action Network. So we started our college network, gosh, it's been about 15 years now, to really focus on high-risk drinking and things that were going on our college campuses, which we didn't really, no one was doing anything statewide about that. So we decided we wanted to do that. So we started the network, and it's been great. We've done a lot of funding of mini grants and things like that through our coalition, and it's been a really good thing. And I'm still not able to share my slides. So I will keep talking as we figure this out. Otherwise, Nicole, I think I might email it to you, and then maybe you can just pull it up.
That sounds good.
Okay, because I'm not sure why my settings are not allowing me to do it, but let me just send it to you. Okay.
Nada más que tengo que saber qué está pasando.
All right. I'll send that to Nicole and she'll be able to pull it up. But what I wanted to talk to you about today is, you know, under drinking prevention is my thing. I'm also part of the lobby team of our organization. So during our session, which starts in January, I will be focusing on all the alcohol issues, cannabis, problem gambling. I get all the fun topics, but alcohol is really where, after 25 years of doing this job, I think I have most expertise. So, have you gotten that yet, Nicole?
I'm gonna open it up right now.
Okay. I want to start by asking you a question, and you can either put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. But When asked, who do teens say is the biggest influence on whether or not they decide to drink?
Gotta be their friends.
Friends? Okay. Anybody else have a different answer? Peers? Peers? Okay. Okay, we're going to give Andrea the prize. She said parents. That is absolutely correct. We would think it would be peers because that's logical, but it is actually their parents and the adults in their lives that might act as parents who are the biggest influence on whether or not they decide to drink. So, I think from that perspective, it puts a lot of responsibility on us as parents and other adults to really give them the right messages and model the behavior that we want them to see in us and that we would like and expect from them. And as Nicole is working to pull up this presentation, I'll ask you my next question. Oh, she says she hasn't received it yet.
I thought it was
Okay. All right, let me try it again.
I'm so sorry.
Zoom and everything is great, but sometimes it just doesn't work the way we want it to work. Okay, I send it again. We'll see if you get it this time. So in Illinois, I did a little bit of looking into your data. What is the average age of first use of alcohol, do you think, in your state? Anybody want to guess? 9, 16? Well, the age is about 12 and a half. And then that has fallen. Actually, it used to be more like 13 and a half, and that's the same as here in Indiana. Our age of first use has fallen as well. So that's not good news. And those of us in prevention really want to keep that age as high as possible. I mean, it'd be great if it was nothing under 21, but we know that's not realistic. But we're talking about middle school students, sixth graders. I was still playing with Barbies in sixth grade, so I can't imagine, wanting to drink alcohol at that age, but that is what is happening. So I'll just continue. And Nicole, if you ever get it, I don't know if it's going in your spam filter or what, but you can pull it up. And I'll be glad to send it to Nicole after this presentation so everyone can get the actual slides. But so when should you start talking to kids about drinking? What age do you think is a good age?
13.
13? Well, SAMHSA would recommend that you start seriously talking about it around 8 or 9. So we're talking, grade school kids. In fact, with my own kids, I started talking about smoking with them when they were 2 and 3, which became embarrassing at times because our oldest son, when he would see people out smoking, like we were at a restaurant, would get very offended and very loud about why is that person smoking? So you have to know your own kids, of course, and you have to know what they can handle. But SAMHSA recommends 8 or 9 because that's when kids are most likely to start seeing alcohol advertisement in their social media, video games, other things that they're exposed to. So 8 or 9, that's pretty young. And of course, you have to use age appropriate language, and that language and expectations, of course, will change as our kids get older. It's more effective to have lots of shorter talks than to set your child down and have one big, long 2-hour, 3-hour lecture. That doesn't work for us as adults. That certainly does not work for young people. So shorter talks, a minute, 2 minutes here and there is always the best approach. And of course, like I said, as our children age and get older, the conversations will change and the methods by which we communicate will change. I don't know about you, if anyone has a teenager on this call. I now have a 21-year-old, but I have a 17-year-old. And the way we've communicated over the years has been different from the way my parents communicated with me, because I didn't have a cell phone. They didn't exist when I was growing up, and there was no social media. So it's a lot different now. And we as adults need to learn how to embrace those things, even though we don't want to have a TikTok account or an Instagram account or, whatever. We need to figure out how to use those for the good of our kids and to share our message as well. So, so if you wait until you think your child is ready, you've waited too late. Your child's never going to be ready. Just like the talk about sex and how to manage money and all of that, we're never ready for that. So I think we need to take advantage of the situations that we have presented to us. So how do we talk to college students? Because that's a whole other issue, as you heard Ayana talk about. College drinking is not the same as the drinking that happens in middle school and high school. So what do we do with our college students? And how is college drinking different? Well, the first way I think it is different is that there is the misperception that on a college campus that everyone is drinking. All students are drinking. And we know through data, your college data, my college data that we collect on a biennial basis, we know that that is not true. Everyone is not drinking, but that is the perception on the college campus because it is what is perpetuated. It is what unfortunately is covered in the news when there's a tragedy with alcohol poisoning or something else. That's what we see. We hardly ever see stories of those students who are making the choice to be responsible, not use substances. And I really think as adults and those of us who are in charge of controlling some of those stories, I think we need to highlight those students more because that is the reality on campus. That is what is happening most often. It's not the binge drinking and the crazy partying. So what do you think an average number of drinks on a weeknight for a college student is? I'm going to test some of your perceptions about the college environment. Average weeknight number of drinks. Anybody want to guess? Someone's at 3 to 4. Anybody else?
I'll say one.
Yep, you are very close. So the average number of drinks on a weeknight for college students who drinks is 1.4. So, again, we perceive that everyone is drinking, but really they're having maybe 1 or 2 drinks a weeknight, which, still might be too much for especially underage students. It's definitely too much, but it's not as much as we think. And actually the data for 2-year colleges and 4-year colleges are different. What about the average number of drinks on a weekend night? And by the way, those of you who work on college campuses will know weekends do not start on Friday. They start on Wednesday or Thursday. So the weekends have moved up. But what is the average consumption of drinks on a weekend night? And this is for a four-year campus student. Somebody say something. So the average number of drinks on a weekend night for someone at a 4-year university is 3.5. For a 2-year school, it's 2.5. So again, while that is plenty and can still cause issues, the majority of students who consume alcohol are not the ones that are, doing the Animal House, for those of us of a certain age, partying. They really are more controlled. And that data comes from the core, the national core data. I know some of your universities in Illinois participate in the core data. It looks like your 2020 data is coming out soon, but I found the 2018 data and it indicated that 33% of your college students reported drinking. That's similar to our data, and then 73% of underage students. So it's definitely more so the underage students that are drinking than the of age students. Anyone have any questions or comments about that? Okay, and I'm really sorry you can't see the slides. They're really colorful and everything. Guess you'll see them later. So what are they drinking? And I'm here to tell you that not all alcohol is equal. And, you know, I hear from parents all the time, well, I drank when I was underage and I'm fine. Okay, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. I don't know. But I guarantee you the alcohol that you were consuming is not the alcohol that is available today to our young people. And we're going to talk a little bit about the differences of alcohol. So products have changed. So you can answer this question if you prefer, but when you were in college, what was the alcohol that was most widely consumed? Not necessarily by you, but just by your peers.
When I was an undergrad, the actual legal limit the first year was 19, and they could have it in the res halls. You'd see the guys carrying up kegs, and then the guys had a res hall and the girls had a res hall. So they just hang a sheet out, party at room such and such, and that was their invitation list. But it still doesn't seem to get as out of hand as it does now. And one thing I think is responsible for that is our K through 12 programs get federal dollars for prevention, and they are required to have a just say no policy. They can't talk about a BAC wheel. Some of the grants we've written for, you can't incorporate that because it's federal. We are a state licensed facility, but we're a harm reduction model. So we can pretty much go where the students need. And most of the time I'm starting with alcohol safety. I'm pulling up an online BAC calculator because they don't understand standard drink size. They think they can fill a red Solo cup and that's one drink. And that's pretty consistent. And that's the first piece of education I like to give them because they simply don't know. And how does beer relate to liquor? Like you're saying, it's very different. And when they realize those 6 shots they had is the same as a 6-pack of beer, the eyes open wide. Because there's this perception is very different.
Exactly.
I actually had a student tell me after we had done this education, she was amazed. She said, I didn't know you could choose how drunk you got.
Oh
and
my.
that made my blood run cold and showed me just how much more we have to do.
Oh my.
So, but we are invited into the first year experience University 100. Well, I say our because we used to be with prevention. Now that's a slightly different department. But prevention goes into a lot of those programs on the weeks that they talk about substances.
Good.
So I think that's part of our problem. They just don't know. They'd be safe if they had more information.
Yeah, you are correct. And you know, working in the prevention field, I have the same conundrum. When I talk to communities, I have to talk about zero tolerance. When I talk to colleges, it's harm reduction. So, you know, you have to definitely know your message. But a lot of you said beer was most widely consumed when you were in college. Well, guess what? That is no longer the case. I mean, it is still consumed, but now liquor is the most widely consumed alcoholic beverage among college students. And that's because, which we'll talk about reasons why they drink in a moment, but at least in Indiana, our students say we drink liquor because it gets us drunk faster. And it's not, you know, we can drink less liquor in our stomachs and not all that beer, and it, you know, it has the same effect. So that's unfortunate. And if you look at the products that are available now, which you're not going to be able to see my next slide that has the products on it, but I bet if I tell you the names of the products, you'll know what they look like. And I always encourage adults, even if you're not a drinker, just to go in a liquor store, go in a grocery store. In Indiana, you can sell everything but hard liquor everywhere, basically. Liquor can only be purchased in a liquor store. I'm sorry, cold beer can only be purchased in a liquor store. Everything else can be sold everywhere. So just look at the products. You'll be surprised at the colors and the flavors and the, you know, the drawings on the marketing, you know, labels, and you'll be surprised if you haven't looked at them lately. And then now we have products that have such high alcohol content that didn't exist when, you know, the beer was flowing on our campus when we were in college. These products are just out of control, some of them. There is a beer called Snake Venom. It's a European beer. It is 67.5 alcohol by volume. 67.5 for one beer. And you get to that serving size. Sure, you drank one beer, but it was 67.5, percent alcohol. So you really didn't drink one, you drank several. And we have products like Hypnotic and, all the White Claws, which are very popular on college campuses. And we don't have cannabis yet in our state, but I know there are a lot of products alcohol infused with cannabis. So, you're getting all of these high content products that young people are consuming, and they do not know the content, percentage. They do not know how much is safe to drink. You're right. They really need a lot of education. All the pre-mixed cocktails that are being sold now, very high alcohol content. The buzz balls that you can buy, in the Walmart in the bin up front that cost $1. It's a lot different atmosphere than it used to be when I was in college in the 90s. So the products have changed, the reasons for drinking have changed. When maybe some of us were in college, it was, maybe getting out from under our parents' rule. We weren't allowed to drink at home, so we want to try it at college. Maybe it was just because we were curious, or because, someone gave us something to try. But now it really is, students wanting to get drunk. Who drinks more on a college campus, males or females? Andrea says women. Anybody else want to dispute Andrea's answer?
I would say it's still males, but the females are catching up awfully quick.
Yeah, it is actually now, at least in our data, males and females are drinking at the same rates. And in fact, in some instances, females are drinking more than males. It used to not be the case. Males far outpaced females when it comes to drinking. That is no longer the case. And in even terms of adult drinking during the pandemic, drinking among women rose 40%. So it is definitely, we have caught up and surpassed males in a lot of these instances. Students say they're drinking to relieve stress and anxiety. We have a 21-year-old who goes to Purdue. He's a senior, but the pandemic hit right at his freshman year. He never had a normal college experience until, the past like 2 semesters, but the stress and anxiety level, was very high in him, online classes and not being around your friends. And so while we did not in Indiana have the major parties that we would have, oh, yay, you got it. We are on slide 10. While we didn't have the major parties during COVID, it didn't mean that students weren't drinking. It meant they were drinking alone or drinking with a roommate, but they were still consuming alcohol. So we still had, the same problems that we ever did with drinking, even during the pandemic. Unfortunately, you have students coming to campus who already have substance use disorders. I don't know if you have anything similar in Illinois, but in Indiana, we have a Hope Academy. It's a recovery high school for high school age students who are already in recovery from substance use. A lot of campuses now are, building recovery housing. They have recovery supports on campus. They're starting support groups. At the age of 18, 19, 20, we have students who have substance use disorders. And let's be honest, it's more available and accessible than it ever has been. In Indiana, like I said, you can get it on every corner. We have some responsible retailers, but we also have retailers who aren't checking ID. So it's definitely more available and accessible. Okay, you can go on to the next slide. So obviously there are consequences to this drinking. These haven't really changed. I mean, this is still happening. You can see all the way from missing or failing classes to sexual assault and other violence. Our data shows that majority of unwanted sexual attention is when one or both of the people have been drinking. Our impaired driving rates have gone up actually over the last couple of years when that used to not be an issue at all. That has gone up. And then working in the mental health field, I'm, very concerned about how substances impact mental health. And in our Indiana data, it shows, students are reporting more days when they felt mentally unhealthy. And also, we are having students with increased thoughts of suicide and even attempt. So, I think we have a lot of students who have not learned coping skills very well. So, when things like the pandemic hit, and granted, none of us were prepared for that, and all of us had a hard time coping. We turn to substances to help us do that, or with an undiagnosed mental illness. Okay, you can go to the next one. So parents ask all the time, like, how do I start this conversation? Maybe you have an 8 or 9-year-old, maybe you have a teenager going off to college. And it can be hard, especially if you're not used to talking to your kids about anything. I always say, and we had 2 boys, they were into Legos and Roblox and Minecraft and things that I could care less about as a parent. And they would want to talk for hours about, their Minecraft world and what they built with Legos. And as a parent, I had to really struggle, but I did listen to those conversations, because I always tell parents, if you don't listen to the little things when they're little, they are not going to come to you with the big things when they're older. So you really have to be invested in your kids from the beginning. And don't preach. That doesn't work. I think a good approach is to talk to your college bound students, say, hey, what do you think the drinking culture is going to be like? Just to check some of those assumptions and beliefs about what they think college will be like. And that's a good way to go into that conversation about, majority of college students don't drink, or the ones that do drink responsibly. So preaching never works. I already mentioned social media, and this is true from my own experience. Our oldest son, when he was in high school, he had an Instagram account. He had what's the one with the ghost? I never remember. Anyway, that's how we would communicate. And he would share the most deep, questions that he had about his friends experience mental health issues, or maybe the ones that were drinking. And we would have so many conversations via text, even though he was literally in the room next to mine. He did not want to come to me and talk to me in person, but he felt comfortable having those conversations on text. And then later, I would mention, oh, you mentioned something in this text. So don't be afraid to use texting or other tools to talk to your teens, because that is how they communicate. And we need to figure out how to use those to our advantage. And, we really had some very deep conversations that way, because that's how he felt comfortable talking to me. So don't be afraid of it. And we always told our boys, these are our rules and expectations for you, but if you ever find yourself in a situation, you can always call us. Be a lifeline. Your child should never be so worried about getting in trouble that they're not going to call you if they find themselves in a situation that you would not want them to be in. So be a lifeline. In fact, in Indiana, we have something called the Lifeline Law, where you can call if you've been, at a party where there's underage drinking going on and someone gets in trouble, you can call without fear of retribution. And that has really been an effective law. I don't know if Illinois has something similar, but we need to let our kids know, even if it makes us uncomfortable, they can always call us if they need help. The next one is really hard for some parents. Our kids are going to ask us, did you drink in college? Did you use other drugs? And we're not doing them any good if we say no, if we really did. And it's hard for us to talk about our own drinking and other drug use if we did it, but it's a great opportunity to say, you know what, I made that choice and I wish I wouldn't have. I wish I would have had more information before I made that decision. And talk about how it might have affected your academic performance or your friendships or whatever. And let's be honest, our kids are going to know when we're not telling them the truth. They're going to know. So we need to be honest about that. And don't use scare tactics. That doesn't work either. Telling, our kids, you're going to die if you take a drink, or you're going to be arrested. That's not effective. We need to give them facts. They just want the facts. They want to know how will this impact my future? You know, how did you feel when you were 18, 19, 20? I felt invincible. I thought I could do anything. I was going to college, I could do anything. The world was my oyster. They don't think anything bad will ever happen to them. So trying to scare them is not going to work. And then finally, check in with your child, but don't be a helicopter parent. You know what a helicopter parent is, and this is literally true. We've heard from our colleges that parents will come into interviews with their college student, or parents will be the ones talking to, the resident assistants about their child's housing. You're not doing your kid any favor by being a helicopter parent. I made a compromise with our son Henry, and I said, okay, I'm only going to text you once a day, and would you like that to be in the morning or at night? And he said, text me at night. So every night I would text him, ask him about his day, make sure he didn't need any more grocery money or whatever, and I stuck to that rule. It was really hard sometimes to not want to text him more than once a day, but I knew that I couldn't be a helicopter parent, and had to let him figure some stuff out on his own. So any comments or questions about that before we move on to the next slide? And yes, you will get a copy of this presentation.
Absolutely.
Okay, you can move on to the next slide, Nicole. So what about when they come home? And this is, getting ready to be the reality for a lot of us. Our college students are coming home for the holidays. So how do we handle alcohol consumption when our kids are home? So next slide, Nicole. Well, probably a lot of our college students are still underage. Mine is no longer underage, but yours might be. So you can't change the rules about alcohol use because they're still underage. Even though my son is 21, when he is home, I have expectations that he checks in. If you're not going to be home till 1 or 2 in the morning, that's fine, but I need to know so that when I hear you come in the door at 1 or 2, I don't think you're, breaking into my house. So checking in is still important, even though they might, be adults, they still need to check in when they're at home. Don't change the way you communicate, still talk about what were your expectations at college? Did anything happen this semester, surrounding alcohol or anything? Did anything happen this semester that impacted you? Still make sure you communicate. Be prepared, don't ask a question you don't want the answer to. So if you ask them, did you drink? Did you party? Be prepared for their answer, and you can't freak out about what they tell you because you're asking. So, you need to remind them that underage drinking is still illegal and what the consequences could be if they get caught. I think what our college students are most interested in is how it could impact their future. What happens if, and I was just talking to someone yesterday whose daughter partied a lot when she was a freshman. And because of that, her GPA fell. And, she's trying to get into medical school. And her whole freshman year, her GPA fell because she, missed some classes. She, failed a class. And now she's realizing that behavior has impacted her future. Background checks for jobs, scholarships. If you are equal with another student, but you happen to have a minor in possession on your record and the other student doesn't, who probably will get that scholarship? So we just need to be honest and realistic with them. And then we need to model responsible behavior as adults. If we're always getting a cocktail, reaching for alcohol, when we're celebrating something, when we're depressed about something, when we've had a long day, if we get drunk at Thanksgiving table, that is not modeling responsible behavior. And again, they look to us on whether or not they should drink and how they should drink. And so we need to take that responsibility to heart. Any questions or responses about that? Anything that you've tried with your own college age students that you think works well? Well, I wish everyone luck with your students. If you have college students coming home, it's great to have them home, but it's weird too when you're used to them not being there, and all the laundry and everything they bring with them. But I wish you all well with those. Next slide, Nicole. I like to end on this quote because I think it is so true. And I attribute this quote to my friend Penny Norton, who was in prevention for many decades and has now retired. But she said, holding young people solely responsible for underage drinking is like holding a fish responsible for dying in a polluted stream. You know, when we think about the alcohol products, you know, our young people are not responsible for manufacturing those, selling those, marketing them. So we have to look at the environment which facilitates underage drinking. And a lot of that is out of their control. They're responsible for their choices of whether or not they drink, but they're not responsible for anything else. So we can't just say to our high school students, college students, don't drink, just don't. Because there's a lot that we do as adults that contribute to that stream that they're in. So we really need to look at the environmental factors surrounding underage drinking, whether that is the price of the products, the way they're marketed, the way they're sold, what rules we have in our homes and in our institutions, how those are enforced. There are all kinds of things that contribute to young people and their decision whether or not to drink. And here's the next slide, Nicole. That is how you can reach me. I'm not too far from you, so, and I love to come to Chicago, so any excuse to come, I'm happy. But you can email me or call me if you ever want any more information. I do a lot of underage drinking trainings about any topic you can imagine. Over the last 25 years, I probably have a PowerPoint for it. If you're interested to know more about how our Indiana Collegiate Action Network works, and what we do with our colleges, I'm happy to share that. I'm very happy that our Division of Mental Health and Addiction is very supportive of the work that we do. They fund our prevention work. They fund our campus work. So if you have any questions about how that system works, let me know, and I'm happy to share that. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate you joining us. You had an incredible amount of information that hopefully everyone can take back with them. Are there any questions for Lisa right now?
For me, it'd be thank you so much, Lisa, for your presentation. I think it was very informational. I was wondering if the slide deck could be shared with participants.
Absolutely. I'll send it out to everyone.
Thank you.
No problem.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of your day today. And I'm excited that you have this event. I think it's important to talk about these issues. And if I can ever be of help, just let me know.
Sounds great. Thank you. I know that you'll probably stay on for a little bit, but again, you're on a different time zone, so I understand.
I am, and I actually have our college conference tomorrow and Friday, and my staff member has tested positive for COVID, so now I have to do everything myself. So I've got to go pull some things together now that I didn't expect to have to do. But thank you very much.
Well, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it because I know, like I said, we spoke before, and you just had a lot of information I want to share with people. So appreciate you. All right, we'll talk soon. All right, so I'm going to keep us going. I know we're actually running a good time. It's 11 o'clock, which is, if you guys, Jody, Are you on?
I am on.
You are on. Are you ready to go now? Or you want to
I
take
am
a
ready whenever
All
you'd
right.
like me to.
So I'm gonna have you really quick send me your PowerPoint because I know you have one.
I did send it to you.
Oh, great. Let me check.
I can try to share. Do you want me to try to share from
Yeah, let's
mine?
try to share and I'll look at the deck as well. Just give me a second.
Can you see my screen?
Oh, sure can. Perfect.
Great. Okay, so I'll go ahead and just get started then. My name's Jody Hevelin. I'm the administrator for the Alcohol Policy Resource Center at Prevention First. And for the next half hour, I'm just going to talk a little bit about ready to drink alcohol products, a little on infused products, but more on ready to drink alcohol products. And then the environmental strategies or policies that you all can put into place to reduce or prevent underage drinking. So a little bit about what the APRC does. Like I said, we are housed at Prevention First, and Prevention First is a non-for-profit organization in Illinois. We have offices in Chicago and Springfield. Our headquarters is in Springfield. And we provide training, technical assistance, and resources all throughout the state on a variety of areas. And my area is on alcohol policy. So alcohol policies and environmental strategies. I work with municipal leaders, law enforcement, and community coalitions all throughout the state and provide webinars. We do law enforcement training. And I can tell you, I have the distinct privilege of being partnered with Kenny Williams, who is the central region supervisor for the Illinois Liquor Control Commission's Division of Enforcement. We train on, he's the main trainer, I'm there, and I talk about coalitions and data, but on alcohol compliance check training all throughout the state. In the last year, we've probably trained close to 150 officers on how to do alcohol compliance checks. The APRC also provides resources and tools, technical assistance. We speak at conferences, we exhibit, we speak at meetings and workshops, just like we're doing today. So today I'm going to cover these 4 areas along with, like I had said earlier, strategies and policies you can put into place to reduce or prevent alcohol use. So let's just jump right into ready to drink. So what they are, it's those pre-mixed or pre-canned or bottled alcoholic beverages, malt-based, hard seltzers, the new hard teas or hard kombuchas that are out there. I know you all know what those are. Any pictures that I have shared today, they're going to be the ones that I'm going to share. They've all been sourced from Google Images, except for one. And I'll get to that when we get there. So really what's in it for the industry, it's money. It just boils down to RTDs are billions of dollars, and it's only growing exponentially. As you can see there in 2021, it's $32.94 billion in ready to drink, and they're expected to expand to 85.5 billion. And that's just the ready to drink alcohol market. So our biggest concern in the world of prevention, is it soda or is it alcohol? So when you look at these pictures, Hard Mountain Dew has just hit the market. I know it's on shelves. I live in Central Illinois. I know it's on shelves here. So when you look at these 3 pictures, is it soda or is it alcohol? Well, Hard Mountain Dew, that's alcohol. Spiked Mountain Dew, that's not. And I have the Jack Daniel's Jack and Coke on the screen here only because, you know, there are other products that feature the Jack Daniel's logo that are not alcohol. If you go down the barbecue sauce aisle at your grocery store and then you see Jack Daniel's barbecue sauce, that's not something you would drink to get intoxicated. So soda or alcohol, keep that in mind. As we look at these pictures, None of these are alcohol, but you see the words like crafted or spiked. All of these are non-alcoholic drinks that Mountain Dew has put out there. So I guess my big question is, hard or spiked? Is there a standard out there that we could put into place that when those words are used, they mean either alcohol or not alcohol? So PepsiCo products, if they say hard, it's alcohol. If they say spiked, it's not. Coca-Cola products, if they say spiked, that is alcohol. So that's confusing for not only parents, but for underage youth or even those that are over 21. That can be confusing if you don't look really closely at it. So why I say that is if you see both of these up, or all three of them up here, spiked lemonade, whether it's a PepsiCo product or a Coca-Cola product, Mountain Dew spiked, the two on the outside, those aren't alcohol. Simply spiked, that is alcohol. And if those are housed in the same area together, you're not going to know unless you look really closely at those. Okay, I lost my cursor. So there it is. So why I bring that up is placement. These really need to be thought out for our merchants. These shouldn't be placed by things such as children's cereal. This picture was taken at a grocery store in central Illinois last week, right before Halloween. So Hard Mountain Dew is now placed next to Halloween focused children's cereal at children's eye level. It also shouldn't be placed in a soda aisle. And I have seen that also, Hard Mountain Dew Tall Boys placed amongst soda or tonic water, non-alcoholic. So that's something that you should keep in mind. There's also the candy connection. So really, who are these being marketed to? Probably not me. Middle-aged woman, my kids are older. These are not really appealing to me. I mean, I'll eat warheads, but I'm not going to drink alcohol flavored warheads. These are more marketed to underage youth, college age youth, young adults. All three of these are alcohol products. The one on the far end, the cotton candy one, that's actually from Canada. And they have 18 plus because that's their legal drinking age in Canada. But I put that on there to show, they actually show the cotton candy on here. And Warheads, that's their logo. The other thing to think about is the infused products. These are also, if these are in your freezer and you have underage youth, how are they going to know the difference if, obviously if they're not in the box, how are they going to know the difference once they get into the freezer that these are alcoholic products? And this one again has the word spiked on there, spiked for fun. So these are all things that, you really have to wonder, who are they marketing to? Because they're really not marketing to adults that are, my age, they're marketing to youth. These are some other infused products that are out there. Ice cream with alcohol in it, Buzz Bar, and what's in the middle are the Cardi B whip shots. And so think about the social marketing that goes on with the whip shots when you have a megastar such as Cardi B. The other area I wanted to talk a little bit about when it comes to these ready to drink alcohol products are the health claims that they put out there. And these sometimes just totally crack me up when you look at it. Now, low calorie and low carbs, that's been around for a long time. The beer industry used that as well. Now they move on to zero, reduced sugar, that their ingredients are all organic. I'm going to skip the next one and come back to it. Anti-inflammatory, or you're drinking your protein. But the whole immunity boosting thing to me is a total oxymoron when you're thinking about alcohol. Alcohol is not immunity boosting, but they're marketing as that they've put all these these other ingredients in there. So now it's immunity boosting. So if you look at that picture on the screen, you have a mindful mule. I don't know about you, but if you're drinking alcohol, you're not necessarily mindful. And then the other one on there, sunshine state. If you're drinking, alcohol is a depressant. I don't think there's anything very sunny about it. And then the cotton candy swirl, that's kind of a mixture of, here we go with the is it candy or is it an alcoholic beverage, but it has 0 sugar in it. And it comes back to how far would you go? And to me, that tagline is kind of a double dog dare you, I triple dog dare you. How many of these are you going to drink? And who they're marketed to. They want people to be impulsive and such. So I did this presentation a couple of weeks ago. The Prevention First has a youth prevention resource center, and they have a statewide student advisory board made up of high school students all across the state. And so they wanted to know more about these. And I thought about, do I leave this in this presentation for you all? I know I don't have high school students on this call. You're a totally different target audience. But these are things that you can do. So these are the strategies and policies that can be put into place to reduce or prevent the use of these. Because I think the marketing of these are very confusing. I've seen products now that are cereal themed alcohol ready to drink beverages. So these are the things that you can do within your communities. You can partner with local coalitions to do environmental scanning. And that is looking at the price and thinking about, are these cheaper than water? A lot of times they are. If you're looking at tall boys, are they cheaper than water? Looking at the product, are they the ready to drink? Are they the whipped creams? Are they, the shots? Look at the promotion that goes along with that and the wording that they use. A lot of times they do special promotions around holidays, and we all know what's coming up, and I really hate the term for it, but Blackout Wednesday before Thanksgiving. That wasn't a thing when I was in school, but that has certainly become the thing, and it's marketed as Blackout Wednesday, and to me, that's just really scary. And then we also want to look at placement. And we went over a little of that. Where in the store is it placed? Is it placed behind the counter? Is it placed next to soda? Is it placed next to water? Is it placed up by the door? So that's the importance of doing your environmental scan, is to get that data. Looking at advertising restrictions within your, Illinois is local control. So do you have an ordinance for advertising restrictions? Are there the percentage of the window, is that being upheld? Or is there advertising all over the window? How much is covered? The other part of this is compliance checks. These are so important. And with the pandemic, a lot of times those didn't happen because we couldn't go into the stores. Law enforcement has been stretched so thin that's something that they've had to drop. Now, I know after being in the classroom several times this past year, those are starting to come back, and I'm ever so grateful that they are. But we are encouraging 18 and 19-year-old youth. We need your help. They need to become trained volunteers. Some places are able to pay them. Some do food. Some do credit. However it's done, we need 18 and 19-year-olds in the state of Illinois to get connected with their local law enforcement or with the Illinois Liquor Control Commission. And you can do that on their website, because we need to be doing compliance checks. And compliance checks, the whole basis and framework around compliance checks is fairness. And no one is trying to get the business in trouble or trying to take business away from them. We're actually trying to protect the business owner and the clerk from selling to the underage individual. The other thing that I wanted to mention that's really good in the state of Illinois is looking at the Illinois Youth Survey. Illinois Youth Survey data is invaluable, and it's done all throughout the state. It's done as a part of CPRD, which is the Center for Prevention, Research, and Development at the University of Illinois. They do a fantastic job. It is a great report. I don't happen to have, and I should have put it in here, and I apologize, I didn't, their website link, but that information is invaluable. And when I work with law enforcement, we go through that data because on there, it talks about what their retail access data. In the state of Illinois, they have it broken down by those that drink. Do they get it from a social source, whether that's at parties or friends or parents with permission, parents without permission? But they also have a section on there. Do they get it from a retail source? Are they getting it from an on-premise or an off-premise location? And that data is really important and eye-opening for local law enforcement to know that they can access that data by the county level as well. So this is my information. The QR code is for the APRC newsletter. If you would like to get that, the November newsletter just came out yesterday, where we highlighted the ready to drink products. We also heard from our Youth Voice, which is a member of our statewide student advisory board. The other thing that we do have in the state of Illinois is the Illinois Alliance on Reducing Youth Substance Use. We meet 4 times a year via WebEx. And if you would like to be a part of that, just send me an email with your information. We work with prevention providers. Obviously, the Illinois Department of Human Services is the leader for that. We're a part of that. DFC coalitions all across the state are a part of that. IDOT, Illinois Liquor Control, Illinois Department of Public Health, Secretary of State's office. We all come together to talk about what we need to do in the state of Illinois to prevent and reduce youth substance use. So on that, and yes, Nicole has this PowerPoint presentation. Any questions that you have for me, I would be happy to answer those.
I have a question, Jody.
Sure.
So I'm glad you mentioned the compliance, because one of our biggest issues right now is finding those 18 and 19-year-olds. We are aware of a few little issues we are having internally as far as the timing and the length of time it takes to get them hired on. So we are working internally. Our enforcement has been working on it nonstop because we know that it takes a while for the process of hiring. Because our plan definitely is to get more of those 18, 19-year-olds and do more compliance checks, because the state of Illinois is huge. And we have over, I want to say 30,000 like retail licensees. So that's a lot of people to try to touch.
Yes,
And we're constantly hiring more enforcement staff. But our biggest issue right now is definitely those 18, 19-year-olds. And we always, so if people know them and have those age groups in their within their reach, please send them to us. As anyway, you can send them to me. I'll put my information up at the end of this, so you can send them to me, and I'll transfer to enforcement. We will have a person from enforcement speaking this afternoon. So, and he'll be able to go through a little bit more of this, more than I can. But that's one of our biggest things, because we're out there as much as we can, but we want to do a lot more. Another thing that I want to touch on is, so with the infused drinks, my feeling toward it is that these are intentionally packaged this way. And I've been across the country and I've seen different ways that it is promoted within stores. And with my background in advertising, I understand how some of these people are marketing it the right way and how we advertise. Now, one of my questions is, I understand how they display them in the stores and why they display them. Um, is there any kind of way to educate these retailers and just to give them some kind of like a compliance checklist for advertising these particular products near kid-friendly items where it's a heavy population of kids being in that area? Is there any groups? Are there any groups that could assist with this situation or have any suggestions? Because we can't control what they do in the store, but we want to do our part to educate people and parents mostly on what to look for.
Sure. There are lots and lots of community coalitions throughout Illinois. On the Alcohol Policy Resource Center's webpage, we actually have an Illinois Prevention Coalition map that people can go to and click on their county and find those coalitions. If they need technical assistance or a resource created, that's where we can come in. We would be more than happy to do that. And why and the research around it's really important to have those products not next to youth-friendly products, cereal, not next to soda, that all of the alcohol should be in the same area together. So you are absolutely right. They employ teams of psychologists to make these more appealing to youth.
Okay.
And that's what those ready to drink alcoholic products are.
Because we saw an increase in the summertime. That's why I mentioned it with those. I think you put them up the freeze pops or
Yep.
the popsicles, where parents they'll buy the items,
Sure.
but they forget, or it's usually one refrigerator in the house.
Mhm.
They will put them in their freezer. And just think about it, just saying like, your kid wants a popsicle. Mom, can I have a popsicle? Oh,
Mhm.
sure, go in there. The packaging is also kid friendly. They use a lot of the primary colors, red,
Mhm.
blue, and yellow. And immediately kids go to those colors. We know that as to be true. And there was an increase in just kids ingesting alcohol infused items such as popsicles and things like that. Or in the South, I think they have a lot of the ice cream now. And we would put our education out, but I don't think the adults understood just the severity of it. That if you're gonna do this, if you're gonna purchase these items, great, you're free to do that, but make sure they're out of reach of young adults and children,
Correct.
because no one wants to see a 6-year-old
Yeah.
intoxicated.
Right. And that's what our student advisory board, they're working on a short presentation at our next Illinois Alliance meeting. And it's all around that. It's like, well, if you're an adult and you choose to purchase that, whatever, that's your right to do so. However, it's the marketing to youth and making them much more kid friendly that is a concern not only to me as a person that's been in the field for a really long time, but it's a concern for our student advisory board members, for their friends, for people they know at school. They don't want anything bad to happen.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's pretty much all the questions I had. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to speak up. No questions? Oh, I see a hand go up. You're muted. Oh, try to unmute you.
I'm not
There
sure
we
if you
go.
can see me.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Miss Jody, hello, and finally I get to see you by
It's been a
video.
long time, Anna.
Yes, it has, and I'm sorry for my glitch over here because I think you heard my conversation of I'm gonna leave now.
Oh, I didn't.
Apologize. So I do have a question. I wish this could be provided in Spanish simply because we have many parent groups and
Mhm.
we've actually had such a success in collaborating with our parent groups. And we actually have one that's called Parent University with CPS, which we have been collaborating. It's been fantastic. So now we're going in person. I think this would be the most beautiful thing and the best up-to-date information we have for the parents to see simply because of the use and the abuse that we've seen throughout
Mhm.
COVID. And yes, this has been one of the big how should I say the changes. It's always been an impact, of course. We have stopped our environmental scan, but hopefully we'll be coming back in. And that itself helped our parents to understand, hey, we can make a difference with these neighborhood stores, because that was very shocking to all our teams there to see that exactly as you said, as you so eloquently put it in the presentation, where everything is placed in the store. It does make a big difference. So just to pray, if you have that in Spanish, that would be fantastic.
Whatever you need in Spanish, let me know. Send me an email, because we do now have on staff um, a native Spanish speaking person
Awesome.
in our communications division. That's what
Awesome.
she's working on right now, is making whatever resources we have possible in Spanish. So
Perfect.
Anna, if you just shoot me an email and let me
Awesome.
know what you need, I will get that in her hands.
Thank you so much. And it's very great. It's great information. And I know everything changes within the years, but that was an eye opener. I had no idea hard or spiked. And to be, I feel like I am on top of the changes, but no, that was really shocking.
Hell,
It sure was, because, I don't drink, but yeah, it can be confusing, but I appreciate it. And nice to see you again. Hopefully we'll
you
see you
too.
soon. And
Yeah.
thank you for all your information. Sorry about the glitch here. I'm going to
Oh,
try
no
to mute
worries.
myself again. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? Oh, hey. Hi, Sandra. I saw you. All right. Well, it looks like we are running a little bit ahead of schedule. So is there anything, I know we have Maha on the line. Well, Mimi's on the line. Are you there, Mimi? Oh, she just dropped off. Okay. Well, what we'll do is we actually are ahead of schedule. But we were gonna give me 3 seconds. Let me contact our next speaker and see if he can jump on early. If not, we'll just break for lunch early and then come back. So give me about 60 seconds. Hello, everyone. So, the young man he's a student as well, a grad student. So he's unable to jump on right now. So what we'll do is break for lunch. We'll take an extended lunch and resume at 1 o'clock for the rest of our summit. We'll have the student experience as well as a conversation with enforcement. And we'll just reconvene at 1 o'clock, okay? Is everybody okay with that? Hey,
Yep.
how you doing, Jerry? And that'll be 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. I know I have some people out of state. Thanks, guys. See you in a little bit. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. Hope you enjoyed your lunches. We have with us now, speaking from like the student faculty experience, we have Jeffrey Beckham and Corey Barnes. They work in different, Corey works for Loyola University, and Jeffrey is Chicago Scholars. Sorry about that, Jeffrey. So they will just talk to certain things like the importance of picking the right school, student accountability on and off campus, and ways to cope with school and peer pressure, along with any other useful information they can provide to us. Right now, we have on the line a lot of industry professionals, prevention specialists, and a few students, maybe college grad students. So, gentlemen, I'm going to let you take it away. Whoever wants to go first, just Corey or
Go ahead.
Jeffrey.
Go ahead,
Jeffrey,
Corey.
you can go ahead first if you want, because I know you
Okay.
got to jump off.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Beckham. I serve as CEO of Chicago Scholars. We are a college access program here in Chicago. We serve over 5,000 first generation and low income students. Every year, we work with 550 high school seniors, help them with everything from the college application process to the self and identity work required to be most confident entering into school. We stay with those young people for 7 years, providing resources, opportunity to access jobs, internships with the final goal of helping students complete college. All in now, our graduation rate is about 80%, which is double the average of comparable students from CPS. And happy to be here with you to talk all things college. I myself went to the University of Missouri, Columbia, MIZ, ZOU for those out there. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and I attended DePaul for grad school and serve on the boards of the 100 Black Men and the Better Boys Foundation. So work with a lot of young people, and I'm happy to provide insight and some thoughts on some of the topics we're going to talk today. Corey?
Yes, thanks, Jeff. Hello, everyone. Corey Barnes, he and his pronouns. I am the inaugural director of the Center for Black Student Excellence here at Loyola University. It's actually a new space that has been here for 5 months now, so I've been in this role for 5 months. Just a little bit about how this space came to be. Loyola has adopted this anti-racist initiative, looking to be the first fully anti-racist institute, which also includes the creation of our Office of Institutional Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which is overseen by the illustrious Vice President Dominique Jordan Turner, who Jeffrey, I know you know very well. We also have our Institute for Racial Justice. And so we're really looking to change the campus ecology. We understand that Loyola is a predominantly white institution, but we really are focusing on creating a sense of belonging and moving from this notion of students being college ready to us being student ready. And so really making sure that we have a dynamic environment to allow students and meet them where they're at. I've been in this role, as I mentioned, for 5 months. Prior to this, I served as the inaugural coordinator for the Black Cultural Center at DePaul University. So I know we have the DePaul connection. So I've had this common thread of being inaugural. So I really enjoy building things from the ground up. In terms of my undergraduate experience, I started off in school at a small college called Truman State in Kirksville, Missouri, but then I would end up transferring to Northern Illinois University, where I would finish my bachelor's and my master's in higher education. I'm currently finishing up a PhD in higher education administration at Illinois State University. And got to say this, Jeff, I am a member of the oldest and the coldest. I'm a fraternity incorporated and still an active member, part of our graduate chapter. Kind of on a personal note, kind of high note, Nicole, my wife and I, we own a coffee shop in South Shore called South Shore Brew, which really focuses on providing healthy food options and really an opportunity for us to help revitalize the community and give back. And that is our way of really showing that we want to be a part of the systemic change in our community, and just really excited to be in community with you all today and really think about how we can support our students and help them navigate the many terrains at a post-secondary institution and ensuring that they have the best resources at their disposal. So thank you again.
Well, thanks. Those are both impressive backgrounds, gentlemen. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and I'll direct to Jeffrey first. So you say that your program help is 7 years. You're with these students, right? So as you see them grow and keep moving forward, what are some of the biggest concerns that either the students have or the parents have as they enter in undergrad school, or even from the 11th grade to 12th grade? How do you guys help them uh, kind of like maneuver through life and dealing with peer pressure, substance abuse, and how they and ways to cope that are healthy?
Man, Nicole, you asked about four questions there, and
I
I'm gonna
did.
try
I'm sorry.
I'll try to split those out. So first, the worries of the parents. We work and do a lot of parent programming. It's really necessary because all of our students, 93% are from low income communities, 91% are Black and Brown, and those two communities actually have very different concerns. Oftentimes, when we talk about kids going off to school, what we see from a lot of our Latinx families is concern around like the disconnection from family. The familial environment in those families is very strong, and so like the idea of going away to school is always something that we get as a worry and concern. From the African American parents in our program, we see a lot of worries and concern around student safety. Going off and away to school again, it's the same kind of deal, but the idea of safety, historically, when I started at Chicago Scholars, even there was always this idea of like going away was a safe thing to happen. I don't know if you've paid attention over the last couple of years, but even as students have gone off to school, we've seen a lot of violence on campus. This past, homecoming season, there were shootings at many of the schools, and so like now the newer concern is, the safety of their students as they go off with some of the things that are happening. I think what we do as an organization, and overarchingly for both sets of families and the entire community for us, is finances is a worry. How do I pay for this? How do I get my students to the finish line? College, while our program does provide a lot of support from the tuition kind of front end cost of college, we actually have wonderful partner schools like Loyola who will work to find ways to fill the gaps for our students. There is the hidden cost of college, the books, the food, the housing, transportation back and forth. One of the examples of that is that during the pandemic, when it first hit, many of our students were told they have to go back to get back home within like a day or two. Well, you have to buy plane tickets or train tickets, and that's very costly. We actually spent about $40,000 almost in like 3 days to provide transportation services and packing and shipping for our students on campus. So those things are always kind of like the what are the worries? The what do we do to provide support? We actually have an entire team dedicated to college success. They're counselors. Some of them are MSW. Some of them are folks that have done this work for a long time. We work in partnership with our mentors. Each of our students have mentors while they're in our program, and we have dedicated college counselors who build relationships with the kids to identify any flags that we see, whether it's mental health issues, social and emotional wellness issues, substance abuse issues. The people in the network and in our community help with that quite a bit. We also have peer counselors, so we have students on campus who are older students who actually build community and work with our younger students to help them. You know, they're the network, they're the people. What we always say is we want to be like the caring godfather or rich aunt for our students to provide everything that they typically wouldn't be able to get from their own families and environments, but through our network and resources. Our Lift team also will do college visits if we need to. So we really are hands on with making sure that our students persist, matriculate, and graduate.
Well, thank you. You answered all four. Appreciate that. Now, this question is for probably more Jeffrey right now. Corey, don't worry, I have a few questions for you too. But we have at the ILCC a program for compliance, and we're always looking for 18 and 19-year-old students. And you said you work with a lot of students, a lot of young adults. Um, and we're always trying to bridge the gap and get those age groups to help out with our enforcement team. And I will circle back with you at some point, because as a liquor commission, we're always looking for ways to um, provide education and information on to those young adults so they can make good decisions. And one of our programs happens to be the compliance program. So, like I said, I'll circle back to you because I think you're a good resource for that. And I just want to make that statement right there. Corey, you're on the campus. Do you? You guys were on the line earlier today, but we had a young lady from Spelman, and I'm going to sort of circle back with you. Do you notice any increase of substance or alcohol abuse or ways that people are coping and using those particular substances? And my second part of that question is, do you guys have any information regarding how maybe mental health is also playing a part in your on campus students dealing with that issue of substances?
The answer is yes, yes, and yes. So I would say that there has been and again, I want to preface it by saying I'm still fairly new to the university, so I can speak to also my experience being at DePaul for 5 years and kind of leaving there in the midst of, we're still in a pandemic, but understanding that students have ways that they're going to cope. And so one of the things we say is we understand that students are going to experiment, right? They're coming to college as young adults, right? And so we're not here to say, uh, ideally, don't drink, don't do drugs, things like that. But if you are going to do it, this is the responsible way to do it. And so to educate them and provide workshops and spaces where they can get support to know that if you do decide to make this decision, this is what healthy drinking looks like, right? Or this is the amount of alcohol before you kind of reach this idea of not feeling like you're in control. And so we really want to make sure that we're meeting the students where they're at, and understanding that this is not coming from a place of judgment, but coming from a place of love and an ethic of care. And so we have, our wellness center, we have various counselors and folks who view health and wellness promotion to ensure that folks are aware of healthy habits. In terms of, coming off a pandemic, we understand that this generation has spent nearly 2 years remote, right? 2 years in isolation. And so kind of re-ingraining, reingratiating back into society has been a challenge for many of our students. I was talking to a student the other day and said that, a common thread that I've had with students is I'm having a hard time making friends, or I'm having a hard time connecting with folks. And when that happens, a lot of times it's like, okay, let me then, use other mechanisms to cope or to deal with that stress of not having community. And so that's something that we are very cognizant of. And so we've created various interventions. One of the interventions we've created is a program that we're actually launching or have launched called the Ramblin' Brotherhood Project, which is a male mentorship program that really focuses on creating a community and a sense of belonging for our men of color here at Loyola. And then we're actually going to be launching our sisterhood project sometime next year to really provide a holistic wraparound service approach. A lot of the great work that Jeff is doing and working with some of his team, Derek Fleming, who just launched the Young Men of Color Initiative, and partnering with them and really modeling and based on a lot of our best practices off of the work of Chicago Scholars, is really understanding that, if you understand Maslow's hierarchy of need, Jeff spoke to it. Students need to feel safe, right? They need to feel that they're safe. They need to feel like they belong. They need to feel heard. And so how are we situating ourselves to where we are providing students with that voice, with that opportunity to understand that they have unique needs that we may not necessarily be cognizant. I graduated from college 2009, so I'm not necessarily knowing what Gen Z needs, right? And so working with this generation to understand what it means to be in community, what it means to have your needs met, I think is really critical. And the other piece is, providing the services that are strategic in a way that meets the students where they're at in the current state, but then also building around services that they may need in future terms, right? And so we have this short-term model, long-term model in terms of really elevating and producing services that are going to adapt to our campus ecology. As I mentioned, we here at Loyola actually are bringing on the most diverse class that we've ever had. 52.8 of our incoming freshman class identify as students of color. And so understanding that, we need to know that Loyola is a predominantly white institution, right? And some of the pressures that students face is, I don't see myself in the classroom, right? I don't have professors who look like me. I don't have classmates that look like me. And so where do I find my community? And so making sure that we are creating spaces and places for students to find that community that they need to not just survive, because we don't want them to survive at the university. We want them to thrive. We want them to excel. We want them to go on to be trailblazers and light the world on fire. So making sure that students have those things and have healthy ways of coping and dealing with those pressures are really paramount and not relying on unhealthy habits.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I have one more question for both of you. Um, ha, the question is, you have these students, you have these young adults. What kind of support do you provide to the parents? One of our biggest questions that we get, and I don't know if this is something you guys may get maybe in a different way, uh, a lot of the times parents don't even know how to have these conversations with their kids. Do you guys, and I feel like Jeffrey, you will have more of this because you get them for 7 years. But I'm sure Corey has probably gets the same question. What kind of support do you provide for the parents? What kind of resources do you have for them as because they're going through this transition with their kids? So they're there every step of the way. And Jeffrey, you definitely mentioned the Latinx community, the sense of family is going. What kind of support do you help with those students, particularly in those families? Because that's a big thing in that community. Family is big. So could you just speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, and I apologize. The background noise is kind of loud. I'm actually at
You're
a
fine.
school today presenting something to a special student who doesn't know they're getting surprised in about 30 minutes.
Oh, nice.
With the surprise college admission. But it's really important, and I have to give kudos to Dominique Jordan Turner. Her name pops up again. She was a former CEO of Chicago Scholars. We really doubled down when I started 5 years while she was still CEO, and we doubled down on our parent support. We actually brought in a person that manages parents and family engagement, and we created a community of practice around parent engagement in particular, so that when we have difficult situations involving students, there's a tribunal, like a literally an advisory council on thinking about the best ways to approach both the needs and supports of the student and the parents. And so this isn't done in a silo. It really is a very involved process with any massive issues we've had. And we've had some issues. We've had issues, Title IX issues. We've had dependency issues. We've had mental health issues, and we've had to have these conversations. But we do it together with people. We do address them. Like I think one of the things is like letting them go unsolved is definitely not the way. Having those hard conversations, we practice radical candor, so we're clear, kind, and direct in the way we address these situations. It's very important, and we bring the people in the room who really care about the students. So this is never done without the student's mentor, the student's counselor. We've had to involve families early on to do preventive supports, and we also partner with the community as well. So the college support is important. Most of the campuses have great resources, as Corey mentioned. And we also use local, if they're still local, organizations like JPA, Howard Brown Health, all of those organizations that have great support in being able to provide, clinical support for students at times are all part of this because this is something we do on our own. We have a lot of folks who provide wraparound supports. And I think that's something that's important. It's not just the support in the moment of addressing the issue, it's then the plan of action moving forward and follow through and follow up. So it's like it takes time and a lot of energy, but it's well worth it to build the right supports and make sure students have all they need to thrive, especially when we're talking about anything that's chemical or clinical in terms of dependency.
Sounds good. Thank you. Um, Corey, uh, I did have a question. I wrote it down and I can't find it. But um, I know that you've had a short tenure at Loyola. If you were in front of parents right now, say you were doing a campus tour, how would you explain the safety of the students at the school? Because we talk about safety, how the school reacts to issues on campus, whether it's substance abuse, mental health, and what would you tell the parents? How would you like convince them that they're sending their kid to you guys and their kid would be as safe as possible?
Absolutely, and I appreciate that question. I would first start by saying that, what makes Loyola unique and what drew me to this institution is it is a Jesuit Catholic mission-driven institution and viewed in Ignatian values and Jesuit ideas. And so social justice permeates the university. We actually We have Jesuit Catholic priests who live on campus and are very present in supporting the mission of the university. And so when students come to campus, when students arrive, um, we have our mechanism of convocation, of inviting them to the campus. And the first thing we do is the Loyola Pledge, right? So part of that is caring for yourself, right? Cura personalis is one of the things that the Loyola really talks about, of taking care of the whole person, but then taking care of others and taking care of your community. And so that sense of accountability of peers and members of the university taking care of each other and holding each other accountable in a way that is healthy and really advances the cause, which is preparing people to lead extraordinary lives. So I think that's first and foremost is knowing that no matter where you go, even if it's in class, if you're in the library, if you're in the cafeteria, we are focused on caring for others. The other piece is, we realize that, Loyola is in the heart of the city, right? We are in Chicago, and that comes with things, but we have mechanisms to keep our students safe. We have campus safety. We have folks in the residence halls who are constantly checking in and building community. So we have our living learning communities where students can be a part of. So again, have these high touch points. It's really important to be able to touch our students in a way that they know that they matter to us. We see them, we hear them, and we know that they exist. So I think a lot of times, when students kind of rely on drugs and alcohol and other substance abuse, a lot of times they don't see themselves or feel like they have an outlet. And so we want to create as many outlets as possible through our various resources and being strategic about those resources and ensuring that our students have what they need. And so we recently received a significant gift from the Schreiber Foundation to really support our students at the margins. And so ensuring that, as Jeff mentioned, a lot of times students are stressed about finances, right? That is a common email that I receive is, I don't know how I'm going to pay for tuition, or I don't know how I'm going to fill this gap. And so, with that unnecessary stress, students are taking on all these jobs and all these other responsibilities. And so how do we kind of meet that gap? And so part of the work that I'm doing in building my center is creating this holistic hub with wraparound services to really meet the needs of individualized students, but also fulfill the undergirding issues that impact Black and Brown students specifically. And so those are the things that I would really tell parents. And then the other piece is, something that is, I would say, a challenge and opportunity is, with universities, we have FERPA, right? So there's only so much that we can share with parents, but there's opportunities to have, and we've been having this, our VP, Dr. Champagne, who oversees our division, we've been having the opportunity to have dinners and have potlucks and have these weekends where we invite parents and let them know, because when you take a parent, when you take a student to the campus, we're also taking the parent and the family as well. So we don't want to just leave parents off to their and not know what's going on with their child. So we want to be as inclusive to the families as well, but also understanding that there are policies in place. So if a student says, like, I don't want my parents to know certain things, then there are some limitations there. So just working with building that trust and building that community with the student and their families.
Sounds great. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna open it up for questions. If you have questions, you can either type them in the message box or just ask. So I'll give you guys a few minutes if you want to answer a few questions. Uh, anyone? Okay. Well, this is what we'll do. Jeff, thank you so much. Corey, thank you so much. Jeffrey, I know you're presenting someone with an incredible like gift today. So congratulations to them on behalf of myself, the director, and the agency. It's an amazing thing. Getting accepted to UFC is super dope, and I can't wait to see what you guys do in the future. Corey, same thing. Graduation on a new position. We will circle back with you guys because, like I said, we really want to get more involved with students. We really want to get more involved with organizations and in those in the industry and in education departments that do everything they can to make sure that our youth is taken care of, feel safe, and have the things that they need to be great. So, any questions? I'm going to open it up one more time.
Nicole, real quick, I just want to commend you all for taking this approach in terms of bringing practitioners in the room and people to like ask questions. oftentimes we do this when it's punitive or reactive. And so like getting out in front of this ahead of time is great. I'll share, when I was 19, I got caught with a fake ID with at Mizzou with the Liquor Commission in Missouri and had no idea what that meant. And I wasn't even buying it for me. I was trying to join a fraternity and made a bad decision to go use somebody else's ID to buy Zima, right? But the impact on that on like my early career and all I had to go through and all of those things. So the fact that we're having these conversations is important because I share that with students around decision making and like how one decision can like really alter everything if you're not careful. So I just want to commend you all on the state for doing this because this isn't an approach I've seen at state agencies typically. So hats off to you all.
Well, thank you very much. I'll let our director know that this was a very good decision today. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. Again, congratulations. Thank you for all that you do. I appreciate it. We all do. All right. Have a good day.
All right, take care.
Bye. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have the next person is logging on now. His name is John Brakey. He is actually a grad student at Governor State University. So I'm going to give him a few moments and then he'll jump on and we'll get going to our next section. He initially was supposed to be at 12, but he's in school because he's a grad student. So give me a few moments so he can log on, okay? Okay, the student, John will be on in about 3 minutes. So if you want to take a quick bathroom break, please feel free. But he'll be on and we'll get going as soon as he jumps on. I was supposed to do that before I introduced you, but I didn't. It's okay. So the portion that was supposed to happen at 12. Oh, there he is. Thank you. How you doing, John? Nice to meet you. See you again. Um, so this summit is for the Illinois Liquor Commission and it's for college students, 11th and 12th graders as well, entering into college. And we just wanted to talk about a few things. We've had a number of guest speakers today, so I appreciate you guys joining us as well for more of the alcohol and mental health portion. There were three questions that I was asked repeatedly that I'm going to present to you guys, and you can talk to those things. On the line as well is John Brakey. He is a grad student at Governor State University, and he's coming from the viewpoint of a grad student, a student that's still in college in some way. Uh, so the three questions that were asked, well, two questions, I'm sorry, two questions was what do you guys notice as far as the alcohol's effect on cognitive function for young adults? And the second question is how what are some ways to help students manage stress and triggers in a healthy way? So those are the two biggest questions I was asked by parents and educational teachers. I'm sorry.
Okay. Um, did you want me to respond or are you wanting John to
Yes.
respond?
You either one, whichever one wants to go first. Dr. Hawkins, you can knock the first one out.
Okay, it looks like I'm gonna have to turn off my phone. All right. John, do you want to go first? Go right ahead. I can't hear you though.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'll cover the effects of alcohol on the brain and the brain chemistry. And can you cover triggers, Dr. Beth?
Okay. How to handle. Sure.
Yeah, how to handle triggers. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So I pulled the article from drinkaware.com, UK, and it talks about alcohol and mental health and substance use disorders. And it goes on to state, while the effects of alcohol can sometimes have a short-term positive impact on our mood, in the long term, it can cause problems for mental health. Drinking alcohol is linked to a range of mental issues from depression and memory loss to suicide. Regular heavy drinking interferes with chemicals in the brain that are vital for good mental health. So while we might feel relaxed after a drink, in the long run, alcohol has an impact on mental health and can contribute to feelings of depression and anxiety and make stress harder to deal with. So, how does this alcohol affect our brain chemistry? The brain relies on a delicate balance of chemicals and processes. Alcohol is a depressant, which means it can disrupt that balance, affecting our thoughts, feelings, and actions, and sometimes our long-term mental health. This is partly um, this is partly down to neurotransmitters in the brain, which are chemicals that help transmit signals from one nerve or neuron in the brain to another. For example, the relaxed feeling we can experience if we drink is due to the chemical changes alcohol has caused in the brain. A drink can make some people feel more confident and less anxious, as the alcohol begins to suppress that part of the brain associated with inhibition or judgment. As we drink more, the impact of the brain function increases. With increasing alcohol consumption, it's possible that negative emotions will take over, leading to negative impact on our overall mental health. Alcohol can be linked to aggression in some people who report to be angry, aggressive, anxious, or depressed. Now I'll talk about alcohol and anxiety. For someone experiencing anxiety, a drink might help them feel more at ease, but this feeling is short lived. The so called relaxed feeling somebody may say they experience after having a drink is due to chemical changes alcohol causes in the brain. But these effects wear off fast. relying on alcohol to mask anxiety also can lead to a greater reliance on it to relax. So, pretty much, the more alcohol you drink over time, you build up a tolerance. And if you drink alcohol to deal with stress, that's called coping mechanism. So, what you're doing, you're using this substance to cope with whatever the problem is you're having, which is negative as well. A likely side.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interject. So, with all that you said, which was great information, uh, we know that a lot of young adults are binge drinking now, and we that mentioned just long term effects of alcohol. How with the binge drinking could we gather that that's making the ish that's increasing the debilitation of cognitive function quicker because they are younger and their frontal lobe is not really,
Fully
I guess,
developed, correct.
developed to what, 25. So what, from your clinical standpoint, Dr. Hawkins, what I lost my thought. What could be said about the nuance of binge drinking now that kids are doing it more frequently, and it seemed to have increased during COVID, and and them being isolated and not being able to be social.
Well, I would say it's dangerous. It's always going to be dangerous, um, because a person can affect. I mean, memory loss can occur. Obviously, if a person is drinking excessively, they're killing brain cells, and it's always going to be one of those things in terms of cognitive function. Think about when people are waking up the next day, a lot of times, they're kind of foggy in terms of thinking and all of that. Their function is going to be impaired. Um, and a lot of times, people may have consumed to the place that even in terms of driving, it may not even be legal for them to drive. Sometimes people have this fallacy in their minds that, well, I might drink until 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'll sleep it off. But they may have to get up for work by 7 o'clock in the morning. And so, literally, when they're driving to work, they could be pulled over for a DUI. If they go out for lunch break, they could also get pulled over for a DUI, let alone whatever their function is going to be at work. And certainly it would be reduced capacity, if you will. Um, so it's those kind of things. And then a person has to kind of think about, I mean, I know that John kind of talked about some of the longer term effects, but even that whole idea of being in the party scene, if you will, um, if it begins to take over more and more of a person's life, then an individual can certainly easily flow into having a substance use disorder, what we'd call an alcohol use disorder. Um, Often people have an alcohol use disorder that would be considered moderate, and they'll still be a binge drinker because they have the ability to drink responsibly. But yeah, then sometimes very easily, they can go into the severe alcohol use disorder, and this is where they have the loss of control, which can affect many areas of a person's life. Socially, it can affect them with family members, and progressively, the alcohol can become more and more prevalent and dominant in the person's life to the place that an individual can develop a dependence. And just because a person is young, it does not mean that they cannot develop dependence. At our agency, not only do we provide DUI services, but also substance use treatment. But sometimes we have individuals that might be as young as 21 and they've had 3 DUIs already. Um, and, just high and excessive amounts of alcohol. And sometimes people don't realize that it's that serious until some bad things start happening. And they think, oh, wow, that was a coincidence, maybe at first. But if it continued, negative outcomes continue to happen. A person loses their job because they show up intoxicated, or they don't show up because they're just too hungover. And, sometimes people have medical conditions, like for instance, diabetes. Keep in mind, alcohol is high in sugars, and so it can negatively impact other conditions, including behavioral health conditions. So I don't know if that was what you were looking for.
Excellent.
You answered the question and gave me more, which I appreciate. I'm sure we all do. As far as because I tend to look at SAMHSA, which is they do a lot of research on just all types of topics dealing with substance abuse, and one of the things I found striking was that 12 to 17-year-olds typically will have had a drink or a couple drinks within the past month, which is obviously out of the range of drinking age. How does your organization, if it's something that they deal with on a regular basis, how do you support and educate that age demographic on in what kind of resources are provided to them to help them get over the hump? Because like you said, sometimes you can have more than one DUI by the time they're 21. That means they've been drinking for a while and they think they have a handle on it when they don't. And in those instances, it's as if they don't have the support to help them through, um, or help them cope with what they're dealing with in a healthy way.
So at our agency, our ages start at 13. We do provide services for adolescents. And the adolescents that we have provided services for, for the adults, a lot of times we would use the change companies, and then we varied out into many other different resources. But we try to tailor it based on the client need. And so, of course, we're going to have basic educational materials. We're going to educate people about how alcohol and drugs affect the brain and the body and all that. I think with younger folks, especially at that age, people, a lot of times they feel like they're invincible. It's never going to happen to me.
In there?
Yeah, it's never going to happen to me. Oh, I understand so and so had an overdose. That's never going to happen to me. And so other times we'll bring relevant articles that come out, where somebody may have OD'd, or someone has, they drank alcohol to the place that, it was like over the top, they had to be hospitalized and this kind of thing. So sometimes, even by either reading articles or seeing videos, sometimes it's a little bit more believable then, because then they can see other young people that are saying, don't do it, it's not worth it.
Okay.
And for me, because I've had a varied experience. I worked for Department of Corrections for 30 years before I ever went into this, and professionalized in the field along the way. And I had many other experiences, but part of my time in corrections was working with juveniles. And so probably about 14 years. And so I can share with them some without revealing the individual that I was working with, or, their identity or anything like that. Sometimes I can, share with them things like that I had an individual who had alcoholic hallucinosis at 17. And so they feel like it's not a big deal. But then when you run into individuals that are drinking a half of a fifth per occurrence, or more, and the individual is a teenager, early teens sometimes, oh yeah, there are going to be some things that show up,
Now,
and so go ahead.
I'm sorry, because you just made me think. When I want to know what alcohol
Hallucination.
is.
It's when a person consumes so much alcohol. So mainly this would be reserved for individuals who have alcohol use disorders at the severe level.
Okay.
But they start seeing things and hearing things that are not there. So they start hallucinating.
So on a college campus, circle back to the college students, uh, how if these things exist and the support staff, the say safety officers, police officer are not aware, what information, what could you give them or provide them with how to deal with these different instances? Because it seems like you said, you have to tailor it per situation. What would be some safety measures you would do when dealing with someone who's severely intoxicated at that age?
Well, the person should be taken in, I would think, if it's an officer. Um, I mean, I think that this is like a really big discussion in terms of on the college campuses, because I think for a long time that officers have just kind of turned a blind eye for all the partying that goes on. And I don't want to act like I was just totally innocent when I was, a teenager. Okay. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is there's a lot of stuff that goes on that the officers ignore, and
Mm-hmm.
probably they shouldn't. They shouldn't. And in order for some of those changes to happen, because in the police force, things are pretty top down. It's going to have to come from the top, if you want consistently, a new policy. Um, I don't think necessarily if a person does have um, an alcohol problem or even a drug problem, I don't think that that person should necessarily be incarcerated. I think there's been entirely too much of that over the years. But for some people, even considering detox, it's going to be hard to talk to somebody who's intoxicated or severely intoxicated.
Yeah.
um, but if it were detox, if they reached out to like their immediate family members, loved ones, this kind of thing. Um, but I'd say one of the biggest things would be pay attention, and just don't pass it off. Oh, that's another intoxicated college student, because it may be a situation where it really is over the top,
Okay.
to the place that a person is going into withdrawals. And, people can actually die, in withdrawals from alcohol,
Got it.
So I would say, yeah, just take it seriously. But I think that for consistent change, it would have to come from the top, and I don't think the answer is to take kids in and put them in jail, on, a disorderly conduct and all. I don't think that's the answer,
Mm-hmm.
because I served too many individuals over the years that ended up going to prison when they really had drug problems or alcohol problems. Too many individuals who had DUIs that went to prison, and too many individuals that were getting incarcerated for stealing items that were valued at less than $10. But because the judge got tired of dealing with them, they sent them to prison instead of treatment, even though the person clearly needed treatment.
Wow, that's a lot of information and very insightful. Thank you so much. I did have one more question. John, this is more, and thank you, Dr. Hawkins, for jumping on. I know this was last
Thank you.
minute. I
Thank you,
really
Dr. Jeff.
appreciate it. But John, I have one question because I know you were talking about cognitive function, dealing with alcohol and anxiety. Uh, and at this point in life, I think everyone has a little anxiety. Um, but you're a grad student, so, and I'm sorry, please, what's your grad,
Masters in Health Sciences and Addiction Studies,
okay, so that's your area.
counseling.
Uh, oh, wow, okay, even better. So dealing with the alcohol, anxiety, uh, and although you're not on a traditional campus, but you've been to college, how do you think? What would be some of the good best advice you can give incoming freshmen, college freshmen, just from all that you know, all that you're studying,
Mhm.
as they enter into college, when they're gonna be, just there's peer pressure everywhere. There's parties, there's sororities, fraternities, all this stuff. A lot of them, like the young lady that we had earlier, it's the first time being away from home. What
Mhm.
advice would you give them to best help them, keep their head on straight, make sure that they understand they're there for school first,
Mhm.
but they're still young adults, so they're gonna live. We know this. We all been there. But what advice would you give them as they enter into this next phase of life?
The number one thing I would say for incoming college freshmen is number one, don't succumb to peer pressure. Because when you're away from home, it's your first time on campus, and you're around people that you're unfamiliar with, and you're making new friends. And in college, everybody's like, "Oh, this is the cool thing to do," and we're doing this, we're doing that. There's a party over here, there's a party over there. I want to let everybody know that you can have a good time and not drink alcohol. There's plenty of things you can do that doesn't involve alcohol. And when people say, well, just have this drink, it's no big deal. Well, a lot of times, a substance use disorder leads from that first drink.
Yeah.
So when you have when you develop a problem for the first time, it's usually be at a party or from somewhere, from a friend that introduced you to this substance to begin with. So I would say sobriety is the best policy. Abstain from drinking. If the pressure gets too great, just leave. You don't have to be there. Just remove yourself from the situation. And that would be my best advice. And in terms of reducing stress and anxiety associated with a substance use disorder, I would say practice meditation, yoga, exercise, breathing techniques. Those are all things that can help reduce stress related anxiety in school in terms of that. And that's all I got to say on it.
Well, that was a lot, and I appreciate that. I truly, honestly appreciate you both jumping on. Dr. Hodgson, there was one question. If you wouldn't mind sharing your resources, I'm putting my email address in the group chat. Most of you already have it, but just in case you don't, send me an email so that I can make sure I send you the link for today's summit so you can get the WebEx along with the presentations from Miss Jody and Miss Lisa today, uh, and any resources that you guys want to provide, you can shoot them to me, and I'll create one nice package to send out uh, for today, so everyone can have the information. Because I really think a lot of times we can share resources and work together, especially as organizations, industry people, and maybe help assist some of these colleges. Because, like Ms. Hawkins was saying, sometimes they need treatment, and although on-campus staff is very well versed, they're on campus. They may not have seen it in different areas of what things look like. Because, like I said, I didn't even know what alcohol. Uh, say it again.
Alcoholic hallucinosis.
Hallucinosis. I will forget that. I promise. Uh, it was, so that was just new information for me. But thank you, both of you, so much. I appreciate your time, uh, and I hope to hear from you both soon. I'll be reaching out.
All right. Thank you, Nicole. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Dr.
Have a
Beth.
good one.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Bye.
Bye bye.
All right, everyone. We actually have one more guest speaker, and he's a favorite of mine, not because he works in the same office as me. Well, maybe. His name is Zoe Jones, and he works on enforcement. And he's just going to speak to a few things regarding um, the ways to deal with on-campus situations like Greeks, fraternities, sporting events where people can get, let's just say, rowdy, and ways to deal with that, with a few other, uh, things that he may want to speak about today. So I'm going to let him take over. Zoe, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Nicole.
Okay. All right. I'm going to put myself on mute. Take it away.
Apologies, everyone. I do not have an available webcam. It is locked out on my laptop, and I have not been successful in getting it activated, so you don't get to see my pretty face today. Again, my name is Zol Jones. I'm with the Enforcement Department with the Illinois Liquor Control Commission. Gonna maybe jump around a little bit here and make this more of a Q&A session for everyone, but I want to touch on the responsibility of alcohol establishments in college towns. So one of the things we see a lot of is college towns that have varied entrance ages. So a college town may have a bar or a local ordinance that says you can be 18 or 19 to enter a bar, but again, you have to be 21 to drink. And we tend to see a lot of problems with that, in that generally the way that those situations are handled are a person who is 21 gets a stamp or a bracelet to enter. Those under 21 do not get that stamp or bracelet. And the bartenders tend to not pay as close attention as they might. And as you can imagine, college bars are rife with underage people who are attempting to get served. So one of the things we always tell people is card everyone. While most bars, especially in campus areas, have door staff, those door staff people don't hold any criminal or regulatory liability as to the persons who enter and drink under the age of 21. So we tell those bartenders or servers, card everyone. You have no idea how old everyone is. They could have tried to transfer a stamp from one person to the other. So just to be safe, card everyone. That is honestly the thing that we see the most. It's not a malicious intent to sell to an underage person. It's sometimes getting a little mixed up with the dates, getting hurried and not paying attention to who you're serving. So that is one thing we try to tell people as often as we can, because it is what we see the most of. Now, bouncing up to foreign students not understanding American rules, I think we all understand that a lot of countries, especially in Europe, have lower drinking ages than the United States does, often age of 18 or even lower. So we actually had a complaint not too long ago that spoke to a foreign student who was used to alcohol coming to the United States and obtaining a fake ID so that they could drink. And that is an issue. I think maybe colleges and universities need to be a little bit more proactive in letting those foreign students understand and know the rules around drinking in the United States. As far as Greek life, I think we all understand that Greek life and sporting events are areas we see an uptick in binge drinking. And it's something that we try to pay attention to. And it's something that we are starting to take into account a little bit more seriously. We are starting to do more what we call bar check details. So instead of testing the compliance with selling to underage people, we are going into these locations and carding the people who are in there. And we are seeing, for lack of a better term, what we call, it's like fish in a barrel. It's one of those things we see far too often. And it's something that maybe the local police can pay a little bit more attention to, but they are also doing the same thing as we are doing bar checks details. As far as de-escalating volatile situations, I can't really speak to that. That's something that the local and campus police are better able to understand. And I will say that if anyone sees issues with hostile situations, they need to know that they have the ability to reach out to the police departments, who often have community resources for de-escalation purposes, especially around college campuses. Nicole, I see you pop back on. Do you have any questions?
I'm gonna let you finish and I'll ask a few questions.
That's actually all I had as far
it?
as information. I would like to open it up and answer any questions you guys might have, though.
Any questions, anyone? Okay, maybe they'll think of some questions while I ask mine. So, I know you don't, we're not really privy to how on-campus works with Greeks and sporting events. Um, but I can't ask that question. I'm gonna switch to a different question. So, as far as the foreign students, and I've actually got this question a few times, um, and it might be more for the educators, but in their orientations, because it seems like there's an increase of, from what I've been told by college educators or administrators, there's been an uptake in, tickets being given to foreign students as more foreign students enter into these universities and colleges. And without giving too much away, I was actually told that and the orientations don't speak to it at all and don't explain it very well. And there's not really many things as far as support for those particular students, as far as mentors and peers on campus, and that's why the increase in those violations are happening. What would you suggest these schools do? Like, what kind of suggestion would you give them in order to make sure that these foreign students, young adults, understand, the rules and regulations appropriately?
Yeah, I think you actually stated it in your question. The best thing to do is make that a part of orientation. Uh,
Okay.
these kids are coming from another country and there's so much information to give them. I can understand that's easily overlooked because you don't really want to think about underage kids drinking, but it is important to let them know what the rules and laws are in our country, in Illinois, in that local jurisdiction, because those three things can all be different.
Okay. I just have one more question because, and I think you'll be able to answer this one. Uh, Jody from Prevention First did a presentation earlier where she talked about a few strengths and all these products coming on the market that look kid friendly but are not for young adults or children. Um, and I'll be honest, if you look at some of the images, they don't look like alcohol products. Do you? I can't say you can foresee it, but have you heard about a rise of these products being used on campus and the staff not being aware of what they are, because they can be easily misconstrued as, for instance, Mountain Dew.
I can't speak specifically to college campuses, but I can say that it is a constant battle trying to regulate those types of alcoholic products. You mentioned Mountain Dew specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Hard Mountain Dew is now in Illinois. As of maybe less than a week ago, it has been introduced to the market. It is throughout the state, including in the city of Chicago. It's something that we've actually had discussions about, and it's something we pay very close attention to because it is illegal in the state of Illinois to market an alcoholic product that could be construed as for minors. A good example from, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years ago would be bottles of liquor that were shaped and looked like emojis. Those were found and those were removed from Illinois markets. But that is absolutely something that we look forward, and it's possibly something that we can include in our newsletter, something to pay attention to, because the hard Mountain Dew, honestly, it does not look much different than regular Mountain Dew. Other
Not
than
at
the
all.
word hard in the packaging, it looks like a 6 pack or a 12 pack of Mountain Dew.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a challenge. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But definitely want to make educators aware that, now if you see kids walking around with Mountain Dew, you kind of have to question it because you just never know. But thank you so much, Noel. I know you have to jump off too. We actually got through the summit quicker than I expected. Are there any questions for Zoel before he jumps off? All right,
Actually, have a quick question, if that's okay.
sure.
I was just curious if the Illinois Liquor Control Commission has um, any type of educational training program. Zoll talked a lot about making sure that we card everyone and making sure that underage drinkers or underage students are not drinking. Is there some sort of training to provide to, let's say, like, I'm sorry, I'm on a college campus, so that, let me back that up and say that, but that we could provide or we could bring in to provide for like the Greek organizations or even like RAs and hall directors and our public safety to kind of educate them better about things to look for and how to enforce um, the protocols and the rules and if they're going to have an event where there's going to be alcohol served, how to look and identify the cards, like the ID cards, and to make sure that they're of age. Is there anything that the Liquor Control Commission provides for people in the state?
We do have education material, but as the injury education manager, I am working on creating new education material that touches on a lot of things that you just spoke about. Because I want to make sure that it's in one cohesive place, the way you can access it directly. And if you ever have questions or you have concerns or you need to know something, you can always reach out to me and I can help get those answers as quickly as possible. But we will be coming out with some information that we can provide to colleges as they wish, because we understand that, unless you just know this information, we're probably your best resource to make sure you guys are up to date on all that's going on dealing with especially alcohol in this state. So the short answer is we are working on it, and as soon as I get everything in one cohesive document, I will be providing it to you and then to anyone else who would like it.
And Nicole, I just noticed that somebody mentioned in the chat that the Secretary of State Police do provide training as well for fake IDs. That is something, so from the enforcement department, our training is more reactive than proactive. So when a licensee fails an underage compliance detail, so they sell alcohol to an underage person, they have to come in and sit with us and go through that training where we teach them some of the steps to avoid selling to an underage person. And we also do refer them to the Secretary of State Police for their fake ID training program. I know they will actually go to the business and conduct that training. So it's a great one. It's something they'll bring fake IDs to show you what they look like, how to spot a fake ID, some of the things to look for.
I think so. Any more questions? I don't see anything else in the chat. Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and close out the summit and thank everyone for attending. Uh, I really appreciate you all attending, giving feedback. Thanks to all the presenters. I think they were all great and provide a lot of insightful information. As I stated before, you can always reach out to me if you want access to the WebEx from today, as well as the PowerPoints or just general questions maybe you came up with, popped up later on or this week. Please send them to my email addresses in the chat. Wait, there's one more question. Okay. So you can go ahead and send it through the chat. Send me an email with the questions and I can deliver it to the appropriate person. But again, thank you so much. And I hope to see you all next year in person uh, at one of the local colleges in the state of Illinois. Thank you again. Have a great day.